everyone, welcome to Jolly Molly TV. Today we're going to make another fun block in Kimberbell's Candy Cane Lane bench pillow slash tabletopper slash wall hanging project. So today we're going to work on what they've labeled as the red house. This is going to be really fun. So all you got to do is gather your plastic bag or plastic pouch system that's labeled red house, and make sure you get your embellishment kit. You're going to need your big piece of red glitter and your white embroidery topping. And then if you are also following my pattern here, this design, you're only going to be doing one of each of the houses. Remember last time we did 4 trees, we did 4 light poles. Well, this time we're only doing one of each of the houses, so you don't have to worry about doing multiples of this. So we're going to work on this cute house right here. All right, and in my pattern, this is actually going to be a pink house. So it'll be loads of fun. You all ready? All right, gather your supplies and let's head over to the machine and get started. Okay, we are at the machine, and today we're going to be working on what Kimberbell calls the red house. Okay, so go ahead and get your instructions out, and we're going to be looking at pages 14 and 15 and actually 16. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to put your 8x12 hoop on the machine and make sure it's loaded with a piece of the poly lightweight no-show mesh stabilizer. Make sure you've got white bobbin thread down below and white thread up on top. And let's go to the screen here for a second so that we can load the design. Okay, so I have a Brother Dream machine just for reference, so if you have something similar, you can follow along. We're going to click Embroidery, and we're going to go to the flash drive. It's where I keep all my files. And we're going to go to Candy Cane. And we're going to go to the quilting backgrounds first. And if you look on the instructions on page 16, it says that we're going to square the finished block size to 6.5 by 8.5. That tells us what size of design that we need, which is a 6 by 8. So I'm going to scroll down here to find the candy cane and little peppermint design that I'm doing for this block in a 6 by 8 size. That's perfect. So let's bring that in. That way the embroidery will fit perfectly on to the block. Now we're going to add the applique design to it. So I go back to the flash drive, candy cane, and I'm going to bring in the main block. Now if you can't combine designs on your machine, that's okay. No problem. You're going to stitch out the quilting design first, clear the memory on your machine, and then bring in the applique design and stitch that out. Not a problem. So now we're going to bring in the design, and currently Kimberbell has a little glitch on the stitching out of the candy cane. But we're going to switch to the DST files to do the candy cane at the very end. What I prefer to do is to actually bring in your normal file, which for me is a Pez file based on a Brother machine, and we're going to stitch out the entire house and everything up until the candy cane. The reason I like to do this is because on the DST files, even though it's a universal file, the colors get kind of wacky. It's not as easy to follow along with the instructions if the colors on the screen aren't exactly in sync with the instructions. So I prefer to use the regular file first, and then when we get to the point where we need to switch, I will walk you through how to do that. Okay, so we're going to pull up this house here, which has the 3 windows. Isn't that cute? That's going to be adorable. So let's click Set. And it brought it right in. That's perfect. All we need to do now is click Embroidery. And we are ready to go. So let's go back to the hoop cam. And I've got white thread up at the top of the machine. So let's go ahead and put the foot down and stitch the first stitch, which is the placement line for the batting. Okay, so now let's place the batting down, making sure that you cover that placement line, that you have plenty on each side, and that you have plenty on the top and the bottom. And still white thread up on top. Let's put the foot down and tack down the batting. Okay, so now let's take the hoop off the machine. Let's take this over to the table and let's trim away all of this excess batting. That trimmed up nicely. So now let's leave white thread up on the top of the machine and let's stitch out the placement line for the fabric. Okay, so now let's lay the fabric down right side up, making sure you have the back side with your fusible facing down. And place it, making sure that you cover those placement lines. And I use my finger to find out where the batting is. So that is good. And then let's put the foot down, white thread still on top, and let's tack down the fabric. Okay, so now we're ready to stitch out the quilting design. I'm going to use white thread on top so that it blends in nicely with my fabric. So let's go ahead and just put the foot down and let's stitch out the quilting designs. Candy canes and peppermint candies. Okay, all the fun quilting is done. That looks so cool. All right, now we're on to the next step. And we're going to actually go to the screen for a second because we need to skip a couple steps. Since we did the quilting background behind here, there's a couple steps now that we don't need to do because Kimberbell assumes when they do the instructions that at this point we didn't do the quilting designs. It's doing a placement line and a tack down for the fabric, which we don't need. So I'm going to go to my plus or minus the needle, and I'm going to just do the forward button. I'm going to skip that step, and I'm going to skip that step. So skip 2 steps, and it brings you to the placement line for the house, and that's where we want to be. So I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to switch back to the hoop cam. And we're going to want to put colored thread in the top of the machine that matches your house fabric. And I am going to do this fun sprinkle fabric as my body of my house. Isn't that cute? So I'm going to put in kind of a coordinating pink thread in the top of my machine. That'll be good for both the placement line and the tack down stitch, okay? So choose a coordinating thread that will blend with your fabric and put that thread in the top of your machine. Okay, so I've got pink thread up on top. Let's put the foot down and stitch out the placement line for the body of the house. Okay, so now I'm going to lay the fabric down, and I've got a little salvage edge here on the cut, so I want to make sure that that is going to fall to the bottom so I don't have those holes in my block, and we are ready to go. So once you have it in place, go ahead and put the foot down and let's tack it down. Cute. Okay, so now let's take the hoop off the machine and let's go over to the table and let's trim away this excess fabric. That's going to be a fun house. Okay, so now we're going to work on the roof. And this is the color that I've chosen for my roof. It's a pale pink with glitter on it. So I'm going to put a coordinating thread at this point in the top of my machine. So I'm going with the baby pink. Pick a thread that matches the color of your roof fabric and put it in the top of the machine. Okay, so we got that thread up on top. All right, let's put the foot down and let's stitch out the placement line for the roof. Okay, that looks good. So because it's a little hard to see, I'm just going to slide the hoop down a little bit so I can make sure that I cover, let's do it this way, that stitch line nicely. All right, we got that. And we totally got that on the left and on the right. Left and right. All right, we're good to go. So let's go ahead and keep the same color thread up on the top of the machine. And let's tack down this fabric. Okay, so now let's take the hoop off the machine and we're going to take this over to the table and we want to trim away this excess fabric. That's coming together now. Okay, so the next step is going to be the porch. And I decided I'm going to use the roof color fabric as well for the porch. Basically, I'm looking at a porch in the pink, and then it's going to have a door on top in the white. And I think that will give a nice accent. So I'm going to leave my pink thread up on the top of the machine because it matches with the fabric I've chosen for the porch. So go ahead and put a matching thread that matches your porch fabric in the top of your machine, and let's stitch out the placement line for this porch. So now let's place your porch fabric on top, making sure that you've got everything covered. Same thread on top, foot down, and let's tack down the porch. Okay, so now let's take the hoop off the machine, and we want to take this over to the table, and we want to trim away this excess fabric. Okay, so we've done that. Now the next step is going to be the placement line for the door. So since my door is going to be white fabric, I want to put white thread on the top of the machine. And then let's stitch out the placement line for the door. Okay, so now I'm going to lay my fabric right side up, covering the door, just like that. I'm going to use my stylus, or you can tape down the fabric if you like. Triple check everything. And white thread still on top to match my door. Let's tack it down. Okay, now what I'm going to do real quick is I am just going to trim this top fabric away. Make sure that this doesn't come into play with it, and we'll make the rest of it nice later. But now we're going to just go ahead and we're going to do the windows at the same time, and then we'll take it over to the table and trim everything up at once. So white thread in the top of my machine because I'm going to do white windows. So let's stitch out the placement line for the windows. Okay, so now we're going to take this off just so I can get a good view of the top window. And I want to make sure, yes, this fabric will be big enough. So make sure you got your fabric facing up. And here's the top placement line of this one, and here's the bottom of this one. So all I got to do is move this across. Make sure I have plenty on both sides. I'm good on the top. And I'm good on the bottom. Okay, so now let's put this hoop back on the machine. I'm going to leave the white thread still on top, and let's tack down the window fabric. You got this. Okay, gotta trim that right there. All right, so now we're gonna take the hoop off the machine, and now we're gonna go over to the table and we're gonna trim away the excess fabric from around the door and from around all the windows. Isn't that cute? All right, so now we're going to do the satin outline around the house. And I'm going to stick with the pinks. Let's see. This is more medium pink, which kind of goes with that. I kind of like the hot pink because I know when I come to do the roof, I'm going to do the roof in this light pink. So I think those two would give a good contrast to each other, but yet still be in the coordinating of the colors. So we're not going to use this one. So I'm going to put this hot pink in the top of the machine. You do the same with your design. You see what you've got as your house fabric, and then pick a thread that coordinates with it that you like, that would also be in good contrast to what you're going to be putting on the accent of the satin stitches for your roof. And then put the house body thread in the top of your machine. Okay, so I've got the hot pink thread in the machine, and now we're going to stitch out the satin stitch around the house. It's about a 5-minute stitch out in real life. So let's fast forward through it. Here we go. Okay, so now we need to work on a color of thread that we want for the eave detail. This is going to be like a kind of a little scallop underneath the roof line. And I think white would probably look best on this one. So I'm going to put white thread on the top of the machine. Choose the color thread you need for your eave detail. Put that color in the top of your machine. And then we're going to stitch out the eaves. All right, you ready? Okay, here we go. Oh, that's really pretty. Okay, so now let's do the satin stitch around all 4 of the windows. Now, I've thought a little bit ahead of this, and I want to use, I think, a purple. I know I'm using a pink thread, which will be the outline of the roof. Then I'm going to use a blue glitter for the candy cane on this side. Just think that as representing the blue color of the glitter. So I don't want to use any more pink, I think, in the body of the house, but the sprinkles has the purple in it. So I think I'm going to tie that in and do the windows in the purple. Okay, so kind of design the look that you want and figure out which color thread you'd like to be the satin outline of your windows, and then put that thread in the top of your machine. This is kind of fun because you get to design your own block. You make it yours, you make it unique and something that you like, and just try to keep in mind the elements that are coming ahead, like I did with the roof line and the glitter that I'm going to use over here for the candy cane, so that way that we don't double up on colors and make it look like we planned this, right? All right, so let's stitch out the satin outline of all 4 of these windows. It's about a 7-minute stitch out in real life, so here we go. like that a lot. It's like a little bit of subtle contrast, blends in with some of the purple sprinkles in here a little bit, and gives it a nice pop. I like that a lot. Okay, so now we're going to lay down the vinyl. And I think I have just enough to make this happen this way. I think we do. Can fit it just like that. It's a little close. Let me go up a little bit. Right like that. Okay, so let's put the hoop back on. And I'm going to use the same thread up on top because I want it to match what we're doing for the windows. Foot down, so you put your vinyl down, same thread on top, and let's tack down this vinyl. That, and that was actually a pretty close fit. I couldn't have done that again if I tried. It fit perfectly on all sides. So I love, again, the little tint that this green gives. This is the Sweetest Candy Sew Vinyl, and there's a spearmint package, which is different layers of green. But this is actually from my stash. This is a leftover piece from Main Street Celebration. So this will be the last time we use it in this project. But I couldn't actually believe that I got 2 projects out of this one piece. By not cutting it in advance and by just placing it and trying to maximize the amount I can get out of this, I actually got 2 projects out of the one piece from that embellishment kit. And that makes me a happy camper. All right, so let's take the hoop off the machine. Let's take it over to the table and let's trim away the excess vinyl. Don't you love how those windows look? So cute. All right, so now we are at the satin outline for the roof. So I've put a pale pink thread in the top of my machine because I want it to match this roof line. That will be cool. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stitch that out. You ready? Let's go. So now it wants to do the satin outline around the porch. So I'm going to do that porch with the same thread I did the roof line because the fabric is the same. It's the pale pink. So I'm going to use that the same. All right, so foot down and let's stitch out the satin outline. decisions. What color do I want my door? Let's see. We could go lavender. Kind of matchy with the windows. I don't think I want to go the blue. The blue would match the candy cane though, but I kind of want the candy cane to stand out. But I could go this hot pink, which is what this outside of the house is. I think I want to do that. Yep, I'm going to do the hot pink. So just test out, design your door. What color do you want your door outline to be? Now, mind you, you got your door fabric already, but what do you want the outside of the door to be? And I'm going to do it so it contrasts and matches the house. Pick something fun. Go for it. You don't have to, do it by the book all the time. You can design, try something different, try something bold. Go for it. So I'm going to put this hot pink thread up on top. And we are ready to go. You ready? Whoops. Might help if I actually finish threading the needle. Okay, you ready? All right, let's stitch out the outline of the door, but it might help if I put the hoop back on the machine as well. There you go. Okay, now we're ready to go. Let's go. I like that a lot. Look at that. I like that a lot. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of the straggler thread. That's pretty. So now we're just going to do kind of an inside accent to the door. And I thought that would be cool just to continue with the theme of the pinks and do the inside line as well like that. I think the purple next to the hot pink will be a little much offsetting. Let's puddle it and see. And what I mean by puddle it is I just take some thread off the spool and kind of puddle it in just to see what it would look like. I think we're going to do it. We're going to go with purple. There you go. See? Sometimes if you puddle the thread like that, you can kind of get a look to see what it might look like. And it helps make a decision as to whether you go for it or not. So now I'm going to put the lavender purple thread up on top. And we're going to stitch out this inner detail on the door. Like so. Okay, this time don't forget to put the hoop back on. Okay, and here we go. That's a nice little touch. I like that a lot. Okay. See, you never know what design changes you might make until you try something out. That's how we learn. Okay. So now we're going to stitch out the roof of the porch. And I kind of like the fact that, it might have some snow on it. So I'm going to go with white thread on the top of my machine, so that I stitch the roof out in white. Okay. Oops. And here we go. And I've got a little fuzz ball at the end here, so I just want to take that out and then pull the thread through so I don't have a loop. Okay. So now let's stitch out the roof satin stitch. Yeah, I like that a lot. And it also matches the little Eve detail that we did earlier in white. That looks pretty. Okay, so now we're going to do the placement line for the snow. And luckily, I already have white thread up on top, so I can just stitch this out. Again, this is a placement line for the snow. Okay, so I'm going to take the hoop off just so I get a better idea of what I'm looking at. So here's the placement line. It's a very thin, long, narrow piece. So I can actually use this piece here. Now what I'm using a piece of embroidery vinyl glitter. It's different than the heat transfer glitter that came in your kit because this has a soft fabric type back to it. It does not have a plastic cover that I need to worry about tearing off. If you're using the glitter in the embellishment kit, that is a heat transfer vinyl, and that has a plastic topper cover that you need to peel off and expose the glitter in all its glory underneath. Take that plastic off before you lay down your glitter, okay? That piece is also a heat transfer, which means that you have the option of, after we tack it down, to use a pressing cloth and an iron and just kind of press it down, and it will adhere even more to the fabric because it has that backing to it that will stick. This type of embroidery vinyl does not, so I don't have to worry about doing that. And I also don't peel off the top plastic. That's literally impossible to take off. It's part of it. So I have branched into using this type of vinyl in my projects, and I have the link in my description below to the Etsy shop where I purchased mine, just in case you want to try some out for yourself for future projects. Okay, so I have this scrap here that I think I'm going to use for this. It's wide enough and it will fit nicely right on top without me wasting anything. So I can actually do that and very gently put the hoop back on the machine. And I'm going to use my stylus. White thread is still up on top because I want it to match my glitter. And let's tack down this glitter. Talk about having a nice little fit there. And I didn't waste any materials. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and take this over to the table. I want to trim away all the excess vinyl around the snow. Isn't that fun? All right, so now I'm going to leave white thread up on the top of my machine still, because now we're going to stitch out the decorative stitches around the snow. So same color up on top. Let's go. Stitch it out. That's pretty. So now we're going to stitch the top of the chimney. And I noticed that in Kimberbell's instructions, they have the top of the chimney here match this side of the house. It's a darker color, which actually makes sense because you could pretend like it's lined with bricks at the top of the chimney. So I'm going to go ahead and put this hot pink thread in the top of my machine. And let's put the foot down and let's stitch it out. Yes, I like that a lot. That gives a nice little touch. Okay, so let's go to the screen here for a second. And this is the point where we will want to stitch out the fairy light eyelet holes. If you're going to be using the fairy lights in this project, then you will want to stitch this out. I would recommend a color that blends in with the eaves, which in this case would be used white. I would use a white thread for those eyelets. I am not going to be using the fairy lights, so I'm going to skip this step by using the needle up and down and just hitting the forward. And it will take me to the decorative detail, and I click OK. But if you're using fairy lights in this project, you want to stitch that step out in a matching thread color to the eaves. Whatever color you did your little eave decorative detail in, that's the color you want to match for your eyelets. Okay, so since I've skipped it, now I'm going to be stitching the decorative detail on the house. Let's go back to here. Okay, so I think for this decorative detail, in order for it to have the best chance of showing up, I'm just going to use white. I've got a busy background in the back, so the pale pink won't show up that much. The hot pink actually won't show up, I think. I think the white will show up a little bit. It'll be subtle, but it'll be enough that you can just see that there's an accent detail on there without taking away from the background fabric. So from far away, you won't see it. You'll just see the background fabric, but when you look up close, then you'll see that cool little detail there. So that's what I think I will do on this. You have to be careful when you use a fabric like this. It's got that background, because a lot of things won't show up that well on it. So you have to pick your color thread carefully that would give the best chances of giving the look that you want. Okay, in this case, I want it to be a little bit fancy but subtle. I don't want it to pop out too much because I don't want it to be competing with the fabric as well. Okay, so this is a 6-minute stitch out in real life. I put white thread up on top. Let's go ahead and stitch out the decorative house detail. Here we go. Isn't that cute? It's subtle, but yet it's so pretty as well. I love that. Okay, so now I need to take you back to the screen for a second because we are now at the candy cane. So because there is still a glitch in the candy cane, while Kimberbell fixes the file, we need to switch to the DST file. So we're all good. I'm going to clear the memory on the machine. Wipe everything out. Don't panic. It's good. Okay, now I'm going to go back to embroidery. I'm going to go back to the flash drive. And I'm going to go to candy cane. And I'm just going to pull up the main block. Okay, so now I'm looking for the DST file, which is this one right here, which is this house. Remember, we have the 4 windows and the snow and the decorative detail that we just did. So now I'm going to click set. But see how the colors are all, I call them wonky compared to the instructions. This is why I only bring up the DST file right at the end when I'm going to do this candy cane. And I deal with the regular file up until then because it's a little bit easier visually to work with the regular file. But for right now, we need the DST to make sure that this candy cane stitches out properly. Once Kimberbell gets the fix done in their little glitch on the candy cane stitching out in its entirety, they will put the correction up on their website. You can very easily go and download that correction, and then you can use your regular file as normal. Okay, but for now we're going to switch to the DST file just to do this candy cane. So now we click embroidery, and now we're going to skip a lot of steps. So I'm going to go to my plus and minus key, and I'm going to hit skip all these steps. I'm going to go forward. That's the house, that's the roof, keep going. It's the porch and the door and the windows, keep going. Satin outline, little decorative under the door or the roof. Windows, there's the roof, there's the porch outline, door outline. Keep going, roof of the porch, snow, and the chimney, getting there. Fairy lights, decorative, candy cane, and that's where you stop. This is the placement line for the candy cane, and we click OK. See, it's not so bad. All right, so now we're going to go back to the hoop cam, and I am going to put a matching thread up in my machine to my glitter. The glitter I'm going to use for this candy cane is this pretty Cinderella blue. So I'm going to put a matching thread to that in the top of my machine. Okay, so now let's put the foot down and let's stitch out the placement line. Oops, I got a loop. All right, if you ever get a loop on your thread after you threaded it, make sure you get that loop out so you don't break a needle. Okay, so now we're ready to stitch out the placement line for the candy cane. Okay, so this is where I used before. So I'm just going to line this up right here. Make sure I am good on all sides. And try to maximize, but don't get too close. Get close, but not too close. All right, there's that. I want to make sure that I have plenty, and then I won't get caught. All right. Same color thread on top to match your glitter. And let's tack down the glitter. Okay, so now let's take the hoop off the machine. And we're going to take this over to the table. And now I'm going to trim away all of this excess vinyl from around the candy cane. Okay, so we're almost done. So now that we have that trimmed up, now we are going to get our white thread and put it at the top of the machine because we're going to stitch out the stripes of the candy cane. Now, if you're using the embellishment kit, you will get out your white embroidery topping and you're going to lay this down. I am doing my little boo-boo mistake from video 1 where I decided to try the white glitter embroidery vinyl that I have. And while the glitter doesn't shine through, it gives this amazing three-dimensional effect to the candy cane. So I am going to use this on my candy cane. But like I said, if you have the embellishment kit and you're using the embroidery topper, then that is what you're going to put down right now. You're just going to cover the entire candy cane. Make sure you've got all angles covered. And put white thread in the top of the machine. And let's tack down and stitch out the stripes in the candy cane. You got this. We're almost done. Okay, my needle got stuck in here, so I'm going to very carefully, very carefully get this out of the needle. And my needle will be bent, and I will have to replace my needle for sure. Yeah, I will replace my needle. Well, luckily it was almost time for me to replace my needle anyway. It's been over 8 hours, and we always recommend that we replace and put a new needle in after 8 hours of stitching. So once in a while when the fabric gets up, it finishes, it moves over and gets stuck up like that. And I had to bend it a little bit to get it out. Do not use this needle. Put a new one in. Don't chance it. It's not worth any potential damage to a machine for a needle because needles are fairly inexpensive. So we want to replace that needle. Okay, in fact, what I'm going to do, well, I even have you still here, is I'm going to go ahead and take it out so that I don't accidentally forget and cause damage. So that needle, thank you for your service, needle. That needle is gone. All right, so we are good. What we're going to do now is take the hoop off the machine. There we go. And now we're going to take this over to the table, and we want to trim away the excess vinyl. And actually, there's no snowflake on this design, so the stitching part is done. So let's take this over to the table, and let's finish up this block. Didn't this turn out just adorable? I love Kimberbell's projects. They're so stinking cute. Okay, so now we're going to trim this block up. Last time we trimmed it up with a regular ruler. This time we're going to trim it up with the Kimberbell orange pop rulers. I'm going to pull the rectangle one out that says cut size 6.5 by 8.5. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm also going to get out my rotating cutting mat, because this is going to make our life a little bit easier. And lesson learned, take away the other cutting mat so you have a stronger connection with the table below. If I have my other cutting mat underneath it, it tends to want to slide around a little bit, and we don't want that. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut this one to size. All we have to do is look at these outer cut lines. This is the tack down stitch that Kimberbell did when they programmed to tack down the fabric, and that is going to be our trimming line. It's really easy peasy. With that stitch line, all you have to do is take your Kimberbell ruler and line it up so it's equal and even on all 4 sides, showing the stitch line. And that's it. I'm going to turn the mat slightly to the side. I'm going to hold it down. Again, my motto is, can I see the stitch line? Yes, I can. Now I can put the rotary color in this bottom slot right here. I'm going up against the ruler ever so slowly, because I don't want to lose my fingers, into the other slot. And then I'm going to turn the mat around, hold the ruler down. Can I see the stitch line? Not quite. I gotta level it up. Now I can. Make sure that it's level with that bottom stitch line. And I go ahead and cut very slowly. Come around here. Can I see the stitch line? Yes, I can. Yep. Come in here. Very slowly cut. Turn around one more time. Can I see the stitch line? Yes, I can. Put the rotary cutter in and cut. Okay, let's see what happened. Dun, 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 dun. There you go. How about that? Pretty quick and easy, huh? So if you have the ability to get the orange pop rulers, it will make your life a little bit easier when you do a lot of these Kimberbell projects. But I highly recommend this rotating color if you're going to get the set. You need to have the combo because it makes it easy to turn. Otherwise, you still have to turn that block manually, and it makes a little bit more of an opportunity for error. But if you can get both, and you're going to be doing a lot of Kimberbell projects, it would be worth the investment because this will help you as you do all of your squaring up. Isn't that cute? That is adorable. So I hope you enjoyed making this block as much as I did. I had a lot of fun with this one. So I hope you subscribe to my channel. I appreciate it if you do. It's free and it allows me to do what I do for you. And I really do thank you for that. So I hope you stay tuned here on Jolly Molly TV and come back and watch the next video in this cute series on Kimberbell's Candy Cane Lane bench pillow / wall hanging / tabletopper project. Until I see you again, take care. Bye-bye.